Welcome to the Indie Author Showcase. I'm your host, Chad Robert Morgan, and today I got special guest, Doug Brode.
Hello.
Doug Brode is winner, second place of the Book of the Year for Shelli. I met Doug over at the LA Comic Con, right? Is that where we met?
Yeah, at LA Comic Con.
I was actually impressed by how many indie authors were at LA Comic Con. That was actually my first time attending the LA Comic Con. And the whole, Kanata Hall was just flooded. I think you were upstairs, though. You had a much bigger booth.
No, we were on the bottom floor. We were on the main floor.
Oh, okay.
We were in the small press area. Some go into small press, and most go into the Artist Alley, which is a whole different section. They're the ones that are upstairs this time. So, yeah, they got a little screwed over this year. Usually Artist Alley is right next to us. This time they got moved all the way upstairs, which I'm sure they weren't too thrilled about because they didn't find out till after they paid.
I actually found authors in like three places. So there was Artist Alley, Kanata Hall, which is where everybody was, and then there was another small group of authors right above you.
Oh, okay.
So not sure how that. I met one guy that was like pissed. He's like, you could see this is the parking lot. You could see the lines for the parking lot.
Yeah. We always do small press and we always do a corner booth. So we always pay extra for that because we found the first time we did it, which was for my first book, it's over my shoulder, The Ship. We got a corner booth just by mistake and it was great cross traffic. So after that, we just paid extra for the corner booth ever since.
Well, the good news about Kanata Hall was that's where the autographs were. So they had to go through you guys if they wanted to go see like Elizabeth Olsen or Paul Bettany.
Oh, okay.
So
no, we were down on the main floor, and we've always just I don't know, that's just always where we've been. We know a lot of the people now after all these years, so we kind of know a lot of the people that are usually around the same area as us in the small press area. So,
well, how many years have you been doing it?
Let me see. My first book came out in 2021, so that's 5 years we've done it. 5 years in a row. We'll do it again hopefully this year for the sixth book.
Good, very good. So tell me a little bit about the books. Obviously, we gave you the award for Shelli. That was really getting in under the wire because I read that like in the month of December. I think it was one of the last books I read for that year. But you also have your Ship series, right? So you have two series going on?
Well, no, I started with the Ship saga, which was a trilogy, which was a sci-fi horror trilogy for people who like things like Alien or The Thing and things like that. But then after that, my first book was supposed to be Shelli. Shelli was I wrote a script. I had a TV show called Forbidden Science that I wrote for HBO. They put it on Cinemax, and it was supposed to be a sexy show, but they took it way too far. So I got back and I wrote a pilot episode, and Chris Columbus, who made the Harry Potter films, was interested in it. And Duncan Jones, who's David Bowie's son, he made a movie called Moon. He was interested in it, but nobody could get it off the ground. So I just put it on the shelf. And over the years, I sold 3 or 4 scripts, and they would pay for them, and then they would still put them on the shelf. And I got tired of them putting on the shelf. So Shelli was supposed to be my first book, but I wasn't ready to write it. I wrote the first 50 pages, which are more or less in the book, but the world building and the politics and all of the things that were involved in it, I just wasn't ready for it. And the first book of The Ship is about a woman who wakes up inside a crashed UFO 35 years after she was abducted, and she's being hunted by something that used to be human, and now her skin is turning to turn gray. And she's hearing voices, and the ship is communicating with her, but it's showing her terrible visions. And so I thought that was a contained horror that was easier to write for a first book. So I did that trilogy. And then I released Shelli, which was my fourth book. And I knew right out of the gate that it was going to be something special because I had hired a developmental editor for my first book, The Ship, and she did lots of notes. But when I gave her Shelli, she sent me back my money and said she couldn't find enough things to warrant the fee. And she wanted me to go to a literary agent and this and that. I just didn't want to do that. I really had no interest in going traditional publishing. I'd rather release it the way I want to release it. And then if somebody likes it, they can come knocking on my door. I don't want to keep knocking on other people's doors. So that was the route I took. But I kind of, it took a little while. It released in the middle of 2024. But by 2025, my sales had quadrupled, if not more. And I was starting to get noticed. I started getting people like yourself, like people on YouTube reviewing it. Another guy, Professor Geek, reading freely, put it in their top list of 2024. And so it started to get some momentum. The sequel released last summer, and that really boosted it. And now the third one's coming out this summer. So
What really impressed me in reading Shelli was how crisp and condensed the writing was. I mean, there was no wasted words. There was no fluff.
Mhm.
Um, when I read that first chapter, I think it was only like something like 10 pages, and I already had a sense of who the character was, what world we were living in, what scene I was in. It was really impressive just how much data was compressed in such a few short words. It was kind of reminiscent of that old Hemingway quote: "What is the shortest, saddest story you can write? One pair baby shoes never worn," kind of thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was so condensed. And tell me a little bit about your writing style. How did you get that that kind of writing style where it's just all the fluff is just gone, and it's just pure, like, the work right there.
Well, the narration, which is really what you're discussing, is has to be echo the whoever the lead character is. And so for the first trilogy was a sci-fi horror, and for horror you want more meat on the bone. You need to describe the smells, the sounds, because you want to add tension to the characters. Shelley's a synthetic. Shelley doesn't get tense. Shelley doesn't get concerned. Shelley wants just get to the point. So the narration is get to the point. So it echoes the way Shelley would view things. Even though the book, although it's written in third person perspective, it goes back and forth between Shelley and her human counterpart, Jake August. But I had to pick a voice, and so I picked the Shelley voice, where it's quick and snappy. Also, it's a form of function kind of thing, where it's a mystery. So in horror, you want to have more meat on the bone, like I was saying. You want that tension, but in a mystery, you want to keep it moving. The best example of this is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. If you read that thing, it's almost practically a screenplay because there's so little description. It's almost 90% dialogue. Shelley is a 90% dialogue, but it is a good 70%, I would say. It's definitely leans heavily on the dialogue. And I learned that from Agatha Christie. I mean, there's a reason that book is the #1 selling mystery of all time. Shelley, for those of you who don't know, is the first book on Amazon. It's called Shelley, the Android Detective, but the book was really just called Shelley. But it's about a synthetic named Shelley who gets partnered with a human partner, and they're hunting a killer in Washington, D.C. And Shelley's the first synthetic in law enforcement. And it's, as one reviewer said, my favorite review ever was, think less Blade Runner, more X-Files with androids. So it's much more about the government conspiracies and what's real and what's not and what's really happening. And it definitely echoes some of the things in our world today, just taken another 50 years into the future or so.
It reminded me a little bit of that old Tom Selleck movie. I think it was called Tracer, where they're
Seen it.
The it didn't have a synthetic main character. In fact, it didn't have androids at all. But Tom Selleck was a cop who was in charge of tracking down or stopping rogue robots that were basically malfunctioning.
Okay.
And then he gets wrapped in a murder mystery where these malfunctioning robots are not actually malfunctioning; they're actually being programmed to murder.
Oh, okay.
And not exactly the same, because again, Shelley is, as you say, an artificial person. That actually brings kind of a unique spin on it, because she is, as it says in the book, she's hunting her own.
Yeah, well, the whole idea with Shelley, all 3 books, and as the new book actually says in the title, it's all about evolution. I can't say how the first Shelley book is about evolution because you don't have to read it. It's got a big twist ending. But that whole series is about the evolution between man and machine. And so the murder mystery, it's the wrapping paper. It's what brings everybody in. And the whole book is about the murder mystery. But if you look even just a little bit under the cover, you'll realize quickly that it's talking about, where we've been with slavery, our own country's history and looking at that towards the future and future technologies and things like that. So, evolution is certainly the main thrust of all my books. I got that because when I was a kid, the book that inspired me to love science fiction, at least reading science fiction, was Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. And that was all about evolution. If there's a single person watching this who likes sci-fi and has not read Childhood's End, you should read that. I'd like you to read Shelli, but you should definitely read Childhood's End at some point too.
One of the things I did notice in there was a little bit of a mention, or what I interpreted as that fits in today's society, about people losing their jobs to the machines. Because these days we're worried about people losing their jobs to AI is the latest big fear. I think we've always had that fear whenever we automated, right? Whenever we put robots in factories, people were losing their jobs. Whenever we created mechanical windmills, and people, what was the story from Star Trek 2 where the Dutch would throw their wooden shoes or sabots into the machine works to gum it up? And,
hence the word sabotage.
Yeah. So I think we're hitting this.
Star Trek 6, by the way.
Yes. Kim Cattrall's character.
I helped design one of the Star Trek movies, so I know Star Trek pretty well.
Oh, which one did you work on?
I did, for those of you who don't know, so I've been for 28 or 29 years, I've been a storyboard and concept artist. So I helped design Star Trek, Iron Man, Thor, Harry Potter, Planet of the Apes, Van Helsing, Looper, Maze Runner. I'm working on a movie now called Zombies, which is a kids thing for Disney, which my young kids are very excited for. They don't care about Star Trek and Thor and stuff, but they're very excited for Zombies. But I did the JJ reboot. So I redesigned all of the Klingon and Romulan weapons. And anybody who knows that movie might be like, well, there's no Klingons in that. We spent months on Klingons, and they shot it all. And then it was on this planet called Rura Pente, which was this prison planet. That if you see that movie, the villain disappears for like 25 years, and they never tell you where he was. And he was on this prison planet, and we did a whole thing with that. And so I designed a lot of Klingon stuff for that. And then I did all the Romulan weapons. But yeah, they cut all the Klingon stuff out, but the Romulan stuff is still in there. And I did the tricorder. And in fact, if anybody wants to Google the tricorder, it was actually, you'll know it once you see it, is I designed it based on Jango Fett's helmet. So, because I had Art of Attack of the Clones on my desk while I was working on that movie. It dates when the movie came out, but yeah. So for Star Trek fans out there, yeah, I helped redesign all that JJ stuff for the first one.
I saw that in the deleted scenes.
Yeah, the Klingon stuff. Yeah, I was in there. Oh, and in fact, in the deleted scenes, there's a scene where you see him, he's drawing a picture of Spock. That's my drawing. I drew that. So,
you're not the first author I've talked to that has worked on Star Trek.
Okay.
There is a writer that used to run the Writers' Coffee House in Burbank. I think he still runs it in San Diego. If you have a chance to go down there. Peter Clines, he wrote the X-Hero series. And when he was working on that, he was working on Star Trek Voyager for Paramount.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that a lot of people who are working in the film industry, it's not surprising if they switch over to publishing. The film industry is not a great writer's medium. It pays well. But like a couple of years ago, I sold a script. I think I got like a $25,000 advance. And then if they make it, you get another $500,000 or something. They never make it. Then what happens is a lot of production companies, if they like a script, they'll buy it because they don't want anybody else to get it. But then it just ends up on a shelf. And the problem that I went into publishing because I wanted my books released. Another thing that I would say to writers, whether you're in the film industry or whatever your industry is that it's really important to own your stuff. A Star Trek writer recently died. Can't remember his name off the top. David, something David. And he had worked on the Hulk. Peter David. He just died recently. And he had been really struggling with medical bills. And so he had gone on the internet asking for help with the medical bills. And this was a guy who'd worked on Hulk, Spider-Man, Star Trek, you name a franchise, he'd worked on it. And the reason he was struggling was because he never owned anything. And so it's so important to own stuff. Even if 90% of it fails, all you need is one to hit,
what do you say to people? Because, and I'm asking you specifically because you obviously have experience in this. What do you say to people that come up to you and says, "Why isn't this a movie?"
Why isn't what a movie?
Well, like your book, like they read your book, like, "Oh, this would make a great movie. Why is this not a movie?"
Um, I get asked that. I do. I probably more than anything other question is, oh, I'd like this to be in a movie and this and that. I get that one more than any other question. And if the right person came along, I would certainly be open to it. But I don't see that as the win. I don't see that as the goal. A film would just help me sell more books. I don't see it. I see some people, they want to write and they hope that it gets made into a movie. But having been on the other side of it, having worked on Maze Runner, Uglies, a bunch of book adaptions, Harry Potter, obviously, other things, I've seen it from the other end, and I've never once ever seen a movie that was better than the book. So I'm not somebody who sits around going, I really hope my books are made into movies. If somebody wanted to make it and they had the right deal in place and I thought they were legit, then I would certainly strongly consider it. But it would be more so that I could help sell more books.
You were talking about how your success in selling your books has been increasing. What methods do you use to market your books? One of the things that I'm working on this year is improving my marketing skills, taking some risks, researching out a couple different approaches and reporting it back onto the podcast. So what marketing approaches has worked for you that you find that is very successful?
I don't think there's any one. I think if you do it in person, it's small spurts and it can only spread so far. So when I do LA Comic Con, it's great because I get a lot of people keep coming back. And I get the immediate feedback from them. They're like, oh, I really love this book. I took a chance last year. Let me get the rest. Or at Comic Con, another thing that we had, because my wife's a genius, on Sunday, she decided to put a little string around all of them. Like she literally went to Booths asking for string. She put a string around all the books, put them up there for $100. I'm like, nobody's going to, why would anybody buy all of them? She sold so many with that little string. And what happened was a lot of them were people who bought the first book on Friday or Saturday, came back because they got a 2 or 3 day pass and bought the rest. And then we would just discount that one book out that they already bought. So doing it in person is great for that. But on a real, like, massive trying to sell thousands of copies, no, internet's the way to go. Amazon is the way. Amazon's really, for me, I see a lot of people trashing on Amazon, and I think a lot of them are very young because they don't understand that you couldn't do this 15 or 20 years ago. You can't do what you can do now. You get a good editor, you pay about $3,000, $4,000 to put the book together with good editing, good cover, good formatting. If you have a good product out there, you are on an even playing field on Amazon with everybody else, including Stephen King. They'll have a bigger marketing budget, but you're on an even playing field. So, I put in whatever I made the last month. So if I made 1,000 last month, then I'm putting 1,000 into budgeting. I'm never worrying about whether or not I'm making a profit on it. I don't care about that at all. I care about how much did I make, and that tells me how much I can spend the next month. And if I spend 1,000, then I hope to recoup 1,200, 1,500 back. If I spend 500, I hope to recoup 700, 800 back. But whatever I make, that just goes back into the next month's marketing. And I definitely feel that, Amazon is like 70 or 75% of the marketplace for book sales. So why would I worry about anything else? Like, I'm just focusing on one thing. And yes, I do LA Comic Con. We've talked about doing a couple others. There's an LA book fair that we've been talking about, but it's like $1,300. And I don't know if that plus the $1,000 of inventory I have to bring, if it's worth it yet. We haven't decided. But Comic Con is worth it to a certain extent. But say we spend maybe $2,000 between the booth and all the materials and stuff, and we walk away with about $3,500. So yes, I've gotten new readers, but it's not like it's not blowing anything up that way. I think my best shot is probably Amazon. That's just me personally. Everybody has a different opinion.
I would recommend checking out WonderCon.
Yeah, I've heard about WonderCon. I need to do that one. You're right.
It wasn't quite as big. I'd say it's about maybe half the size of LA Comic Con in terms of the small press area. But considering how large that was, it's still saying something. right?
Mhm.
Um,
The other great one we did was we did a thing called Alien Con before the Shelli books came out when we were pushing the ship books. We did really well at Alien Con because it was a much smaller buy-in for the table, and they happened to have just put us right in front. So every single person who came in had to go buy our table, and we did really well there. That was the most. I mean, you want to just talk profit? That's the best profit we ever made, actually. And we didn't have to sell as much as we did at LA Comic Con to make that profit.
which one's Alien Con? Because I'm always looking for a good.
It's not around anymore. They did that one, and we're like, we're going back forever, and then they never did another one. It was awesome. It was for all the people with the, who believe in this stuff is real. You wouldn't believe how many times my wife had to keep a straight face. My wife helps me at the booth. You wouldn't believe how often she had to keep a straight face. Would be like, they'd see the big banner with the alien head, and they'd be like, "So is this based on your real experiences?" And she'd be like, "No, my husband decided to go with a fictional story this time around." She got really good at it, but the first couple of times she did kind of burst out laughing and turn off some sales.
My wife helps me when we do our conventions as well, because last year at Monsterpalooza, she was helping me, and I tripped over a box and split my lip in half from here
Ooh.
all the way over to here, and messed up my knee. I couldn't walk for like a week and a half.
Oh my gosh.
So now she comes just to make sure I don't kill myself.
Well, my wife's responsible for 80 to 90% of our sales. In fact, I think when she gave you a copy of the book, it was her. You walked up to her and she did all that. She's the salesperson in the family. So, but I have been learning Amazon marketing. That's as far as I go with. And I need to be better at mailing lists and things like that. I'm not good at that. I have to do that. So that's also next on my priority list.
My wife will help me do the setup and breakdown. Heaven forbid if she talks to a customer, man. She is the exact opposite. No, she'll hide in the back and, "Oh, you sold something? Here's your bag. There, I'm going to go back."
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, my wife's the complete and exact opposite of that.
Maybe we can get them together. She can give my wife some notes, because I can definitely use some help out there. If there is a good sci-fi convention, let me know, because speaking for myself, I do a lot of horror conventions, right? I do Creep IE, I do Monsterpalooza. Those are my two main ones. We do pretty well there. I mean, we just came off of Creep IE. I sold almost 80 books, which for me is good. I don't know how's that. I don't know how that compares to you at LA Comic Con, but for me, that's cooking. But I have a second series, which is raunchy sci-fi comedy, and I'm always looking for an outlet to sell that one. And so that's one reason I like WonderCon, because I can get my other stuff out there that's not just horror. But I'm always struggling to find some other sci-fi convention. I think San Jose started at Comic-Con.
I wouldn't know. I don't know. We do LA Comic Con. We definitely talked about WonderCon. We've definitely looked at the LA Book Fair. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and it's like, where can I get the most reach? And for me, I find that while we're going to continue to do LA Comic Con, and we really love it there, especially because we see the same people all the time, and we're certainly open to other things. For the most reach, I really feel like Amazon is where I put most of my money and my focus.
We tried the LA Festival of Books over at USC 1 year.
Super expensive. $1,300 for a booth.
Lost our shirt. It was very, very busy. It was very, very crowded. There were huge crowds to get Stacey Abrams' book. They were there to get Matthew Perry's book, because he was alive at the time. He had just published his book shortly before his death. We had I'm blanking on her name right now, but congressman from just down the road in Irvine. Her book was out. Huge lines around the block to get them. Everybody else I talked to was like, "Yeah, we took a loss." No, they didn't want to talk to anybody else.
I mean, it depends a lot on a lot of other factors too. What kind of books is that audience looking for? One of the problems with something like that is I don't know what the audience is looking for there. So if we do it, we might share a booth with somebody. We've talked about that. We met somebody who's in a different genre than us. That might be worth doing that. I have to see his cover and I have to see what kind of marketing materials he has, because it has to be of the same level. We have gorgeous banners and everything. And one of the things that has helped me, and I was really did not want to do this. My wife insisted that when the first book came out, was she made a big banner with all the movie titles that I've worked on, and that helped a lot, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, I like to design work in Star Trek or Iron Man or Thor or whatever. I'll check out Shelli or I'll check out the ship. And that helped a lot with our booth. I think we probably do better than most people at LA Comic Con. In fact, I know based on conversations with other people that we've been lucky in that regard. And I think that the credits and some of that has helped. Also, sometimes some of the conventions, we did a Vegas Con and they gave us a free booth in return for doing some or those panels. So I did a panel on working on designing Marvel movies, and I did one on designing Star Trek, and that brought a lot of people down. And then when they come there, then my wife's literally on the side next to at the door, like, hey, come on down to our booth, check out our books. Here's a bookmark. And then they come down to the booth and they want to look at some of the artwork that we had from those movies. So I have an angle there that other writers wouldn't have, and that has proven to help a bit. It's gotten me into some people's consciousness that they're willing to try it out because they like some of the movies I worked on.
Oh,
so if you have any kind of angle that you can use, then I would use that angle. If I'm speaking to any writers who are listening, I just happen to have lucked out that I had that angle.
Oh, undeniably. I got a coworker, my boss actually, at my day job. He last year wrote a book. It was a sequel to an H.P. Lovecraft story that he was a big fan of. The Rats Beneath the Walls. And
I know that story.
Yeah, he wrote he wrote
Okay.
he wrote the sequel to it. So he goes. We have another coworker who's also my boss. Everybody at my day job is my boss. I am the lowest person on the totem pole.
Okay.
So our lead artist, Chris Williams, who's the guy that helps me with my covers for my books, just on his spare time, does great. People that sells books is his covers. So just putting that out there, he's awesome. He had a booth at San Diego Comic Con to promote his personal stuff. And that's what got me started in this, because it's like, well, I'm not going to use it this year. I'm trying to offload it. Do you want to borrow it? So I got to go to San Diego Comic Con for free. Yeah. So last year, Scott went down with his book. And he's like, well, how many am I going to sell? You've done this before. And I said, well, if you sell 100, you're doing great. He says, 100 a day? I said, no, 100. If you sell 100 out of the whole thing. When I did San Diego Comic Con, I had 3 books. And I did about 90 between the 3 of them. And I thought I was doing fantastic. See, I got the look in your eyes going like, really? So
no, I'm just thinking, because San Diego Comic Con, if we do we've talked about San Diego Comic Con, that's about a $10,000 investment. Because you have to go big if you're going into San Diego Comic Con. Big booth. And I don't mean size. I mean like the background, the whole thing. Because we've talked about it. And to hit, if I did San Diego Comic Con, I would really need to hit many, many hundreds of copies to afford to do San Diego Comic Con, because it's so expensive to do San Diego Comic Con.
Well, my boss, because you're getting back to what you're talking about having an having an angle.
Yeah.
He was the game designer for the original Fallout.
Oh, there you go. That's a good end. Yeah.
So he wound up selling about 150. So
okay.
he did gangbusters, but he also
did he even make his money back? Because it cost so much just to have a booth at San Diego Comic Con.
I don't think he cared.
Okay. No, that's legitimate. You can go into something like that and be like, okay, I'm going to lose $1,000 or $2,000 to do promotion. I've done that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That makes complete sense to me. It depends on what you're looking at to doing. But if I'm dragging my wife out to San Diego for a weekend, you bet your butt she's going to be like, we need to make a profit.
My concern in doing these things is breaking even, right? So I can afford to do the next one.
Exactly.
That's all I care about.
Okay.
What conferences and everything, because you said LA Comic-Con, have you tried anything out of state? Have you tried branching out?
Just the Vegas one, and then we were invited for that one.
That was the alien one that you're saying, the one that doesn't...
No, I did Vegas Comic-Con 2 years ago, and we did, but they had me do a panel on designing for Marvel and a panel on designing for Star Trek, and then we used those panels to bring people down to our booths. We did well. It's just but you have the hotel and everything, and also it's a much smaller crowd than the LA one, so it's all relative.
Yeah, we had a similar experience when we did Hauntmare Expo, which is a much smaller horror convention up in Fresno. And so the booth fees were really small, but you have to drive 4 or 5 hours to get there. You're getting a hotel, so that adds to your cost. So, yeah, I get that. It's like it all has to kind of balance out. You have to have enough people coming through the door that you have potential customers, that you can sell enough books to offset, the travel time, the hotel rent, and everything like that. So it is kind of a juggling act when you start planning these things out of state.
I guess I just feel like when I think of the convention stuff, it's really fun, but it's one quiver in the it's just one bow in the quiver, or whatever the phrase is. Like it's just part of it, It's not, that's not my be all end all. It's a great way to meet customers. It's a great way to get readers to be able to talk to me about what they enjoyed about the books or this and that. It's a great way to continue to promote my books. I should be doing it more, but I've definitely, I have a limited amount of resources, so I put most of my money in my marketing stuff towards the Amazon stuff. But I definitely, I need to be doing more of these conventions. That's true. I should be doing 3 or 4 a year, but it's just I haven't been able to do that yet. I hope to do it though.
Well, when you start adding more conventions, you definitely have to let me know so we can plug you on the podcast so people know how to find you.
Thanks. Well, right now, actually, the big thing I've got going is that because I hit 1 million pages read on Kindle Unlimited in December, Amazon put me on this deal of the month right now. So Shelli's actually the lowest it's ever been, probably ever will be. They brought it down to $3.49, which is half price for the Kindle. So anybody who's interested in checking out any of my work, Shelli is the deal of the month on Amazon, or one of the deals of the month, at $3.49. Shelli, the Android Detective. Shelli with an I at the end. It looks like this. So I hope you'll check it out. And the deal runs till the 28th. So it's been pretty exciting too, just because, and a little gut wrenching, because each hour I keep checking it. I shouldn't be checking it each hour. So to see, if sales are going up and down and up and down. But the short answer is weekend's good, midweek bad, end of the week good. So it's like, I've gotten used to the roller coaster ride.
And you have book 3 of that series coming out, correct?
Yes, Shelli, Our Evolution, which is a play on revolution and evolution. And each book is a standalone. When I did my Ship trilogy, that was one story that broken up into 3 parts. And each one has a beginning, middle, and end, but it was a continuous story. The Shelli books aren't like that. The characters continue and they're growing, but each book is a standalone mystery. So you can pick up any one and feel confident. I would just suggest starting with the first one just because it's the most popular, but any one will do. And I've been lucky that the second one, I think you can see it here, Shelli Murder Mind, that's the one that came out last summer. That one has something like a 70% read-through rate, which is really high. I didn't have anything like that on my Ship trilogies. I think the second and third books, I'd be lucky if I could say 30 to 40% on the second one, and maybe even lower than somewhere around there for the third one too. But this one was much bigger, high read-through rate. So that's something else that I've been keeping an eye on is the read-through rate, because it's not, the first book is just the springboard. But it's like if somebody tells you you guys see Game of Thrones, nobody's starting with season 5. They're starting at the beginning. So, the read-through rate though is what's really going to hopefully propel Shelli farther and farther forward.
And the first one's now award-winning.
Yeah, it's won a couple of them. It's been great, so.
Well, tell me, what other awards has it award? I know it
was listed in the top 10 for 2024 by Reading Freely, which is a popular writing blog or whatever, the website where they review books. They review books every day, and then at the end of the year they culminate all of them. And yeah, so Shelli hit their top 10. That was great. And then they also put me in the top 10 new authors for 2024, which is funny because I was like 53. Yeah, so it's been, and Professor Geek on YouTube has been a really big fan of the books. Another guy called Mike Travels Nowhere did a nice review for Shelli. So yeah, I've been slowly but surely been getting some, a little bit of notice here and there, and that certainly helps. And I appreciate every single one of them, including yourself, of course. So thank you for that. Thanks for taking the time to read it.
Oh, of course. I mean, like I said, it was a very compact story, and I mean that in a good way. Like there's a lot of detail that was compressed down in such a few well-chosen words that it was very easy to read and still have a vivid idea of what was happening in the world at the same time. I mean, that's a good balance. I mean, that's a good trick to pull off. Like I said, that was very Hemingway-esque in terms of the way the prose was written. And yeah, the whole purpose of the podcast here, because we got the idea at WonderCon where I saw a whole group of us, like you guys had over at the LA Comic-Con, all of us working to try to get our voices out there. And I said, well, let's work together. Let's actually start showcasing these indie authors and giving them a platform so they can come out and say, here we are. And
I think it's a great idea. I think it's great to do that.
And one of these days it might actually work. So we're great.
Well, the problem is the biggest thing you have to get through is the stigma. So, I could have sent, I don't know about the Ship trilogy, but Shelli, I know I've shopped around. I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to wait for a year. I God forbid somebody else tried to design one of my covers. I mean, I feel like 28 or 30 years experience or whatever it is designing stuff. I really didn't want somebody to, now I don't paint them, but I do design them all. And then I have an artist, Thea at Enchanted Ink, who paints them up for me. So I sketch them out and then she paints them. And then I drive her crazy with notes for a couple of months. But I'm very meticulous about how I want every single thing to look, from the formatting to any interior images to the cover. I'm not as meticulous when it comes to marketing and things like that. That I don't really care about. I'll use anything for marketing, anything that'll work. But when it comes to the actual product, I'm very meticulous about it. And so the idea of having somebody else, of handing that over for what, like a $10,000 advance, just seems insane to me. I mean, that's just, make that back in a couple of years on the book. So I would never do that.
Sounds like you're doing a lot better than I am. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, I've been lucky with Shelli. I mean, the Ship book did pretty well. But a lot of that was, I had the friends and family and stuff like that helping me. They didn't care about my books after the first one though. Like if anybody's on here and they're an indie author, you can count on your friends and family for a couple of books. But by the time that the 5th book came out, Murder Mind, I mean, I was showing it to my wife. She's like, "Oh yeah, that looks good," and then just went about her work. People just, it's not the same. So, I lucked out that Shelli was written for a wider audience, and I was conscious of that. I was also hitting a couple of genres. I was hitting the detective mystery genre, which it does very well, and so that helped a lot. I didn't write it for that. I had the script already that it's based on, but that helped. That it was a genre that appealed to more people. The sci-fi horror, I'm very proud of that trilogy, but it just didn't have the same size audience.
What was I going to say? Okay, now I'm having a senior moment because I was going to say something and I lost track.
Been there.
Well, you're young. I mean, you're only 53. I mean, I'm 54.
I turned 54 this week.
Really?
Yeah, 54 this week.
Oh my God! See, we need to start like a geriatric club here, a geriatric writers club. In my day, when we had the typewriter, and
Yeah,
oh, I'm getting too old for these conventions. I'll tell you that. Oh, that's a lot of
it's a
work.
lot of work. You don't do any stuff online?
I do, but I'm not successful in doing anything online. I mean, I put it out there, it just never goes anywhere. Like,
How much are you putting into marketing, and what kind of marketing are you doing?
well, that's my goal for this year is to try to put money in the marketing and get that up and running.
And
'Cause
how many ads? You have to run multiple ads.
I tried to do Amazon ads for my latest book, Fear, and they looked at the cover, and Amazon went, "Fuck that, no." They
Then you
ran
need a
from
new
it,
cover.
huh?
Then you need a different cover from Amazon.
I know, I
It's
get.
too big of a marketplace to say F that. It's way too big of a. You're talking about 70-something% of the marketplace. That's no. Like,
No, I'm saying Amazon said that to me. I mean, I
I know, but
tried,
if they're
but
saying, right, of course, I'm saying if they said this cover doesn't work for us, then you need to give them a cover that does work for them, because you can't say no to 70% of the market. I'm just being honest. Like, I mean, you can't. Like, it's too big of a marketplace.
yeah, no,
You
I
know,
hear you. I hear you. That is what I'm working on for this year. That is my
you can
goal.
have your exclusive cover that's for your fans. It's on your website and that's at conventions. But dear God in heaven, I would make your top priority making an Amazon version. Absolutely. It's just too big of a market. It is the market. I mean, like, if somebody said you can get your books into every single Barnes and Noble, or you can get one big day email blast from Amazon, man, I'm taking that blast every day of the week. You know, they're absolutely. Amazon's just it's just too ginormous to ignore. That's just my 2 cents, but I feel pretty strongly about that. Yeah, I mean, no, it's because I'm old enough to remember that it's so hard for an indie author to break out. That now they've given you a platform. I would never read a Kindle book. I'm not into Kindle books. I'm not knocking anybody who does. In fact, please do, especially now that it's on sale. $3.49. But the Kindle market has changed the world of publishing across the board, because it really does put an indie author at the same level. My big competitor is not Stephen King. My big competitor is Martha Wells. And right now, in the androids and aliens, robots and androids category, she is the top 10 slots, and I'm number 12. There's one other guy at 11. But she is the top 10. I can't break through that 10. I've been trying forever. Shelli's at number 12. So it hovers between 12 and 13 most days. And I can't break through that wall. But I'm right at that wall. And anybody else, I wouldn't even be in that wall, because Amazon, it's not just about categories. They have subcategories like this one. They'll have subcategories for your books. And you can find a niche within there and raise up that ranking. And I just think that we would never have the opportunities that we have now. Okay, I would say this: you can't sell your book today like you would in 1999. You have to sell it like people are today. Those young whippersnappers are at 2026. Because even if those young whippersnappers aren't making good books, they're the competition. It doesn't matter if their book is better or worse or whatever than mine. They're their competition, and I have to look at least what they're doing, So like on my Amazon page, I use this A+ content, which is, I use just AI generated images, but I work on the AI generated. It's the only thing I use AI for, but it's really good because it makes it look like a more professional page, so that I am on the same level as a big marketing team that I can't beat in the real world, If I go into, I don't let my books be on Barnes and Noble. I've never offered that. If I did, it would crush me, because God forbid Barnes and Noble says, this looks like a cool cover. Let's buy 200 copies. That could crush me. They buy 200 copies. They return 180 of them because only 20 sold. I have to pay for both the manufacturing of the book and the shipping of the book. And that's a lot. So I go to the one that's the cheapest and the easiest, and all my money just goes towards the marketing and the budgeting. So that's my really long standing on the soapbox speech.
On the Barnes and Noble, you're talking about like if they order it through Ingram Spark, right? Because you have to set up your
Oh yeah, for those of you who don't know, I guess nobody would know. I do it two ways. I do Ingram Spark for hardcover because they do beautiful hardcovers, and I do them for paperbacks for everybody outside of Amazon, and then I do KDP paperbacks and Kindle both through Amazon. And one of the reasons I do the paperbacks through the Amazon is because then I can get pre-orders up. You can't get. I'm sorry, no. Sorry. I do Ingram Spark paperbacks because you can't do pre-orders on paperbacks on KDP paperbacks, but you can on Ingram Spark. So what I do is I put the Ingram Spark paperback up for the pre-order, usually a couple months ahead. Kindle is several months ahead. Paperback is a couple months ahead. And then the day it releases, I switch it over to the KDP version. And then Amazon handles the rest of the paperbacks from then on.
What I do, because I'm on KDP as well. It's on Amazon, but I put it through Ingram Spark just so you can have that returnable. So bookstores can buy it, right? And every once in a while, I have a book that'll show up, like 2 or 3 times a year. I'll have a book show up. I'm like, who the hell ordered this? Why is this here? And it's a return from some mom and pop bookstore that it, for whatever reason, it didn't sell or whatever.
Right.
But I also do it through Barnes and Noble Press, so I can get it on the Nook.
Okay. But then you can't do Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, that's sort of the trade-off. Technically,
I'm starting to sound. There's somebody right now watching this thinking he's just a total shill for Amazon. They're paying the money, but no, I'm a big fan of Kindle Unlimited, and let me tell you why. Kindle Unlimited is the reason people have been discovering my books. It's how Reading Freely discovered Shelli and put it in the top 20 books of 2024 because they just found it on Kindle Unlimited and they just read it on their own. So that's why I also raised the prices on my ebooks. My ebooks are not cheap. Yeah, they're $6.99 for Shelli. Right now it's on sale for $3.49 this month, but generally it's $6.99. Sequel is $7.99, and the new one is pre-ordered for $9.99. The ship books are cheaper just because those are not my main focus. But then the way I counterbalance that is then it's free on Kindle Unlimited if you're a subscriber to Kindle Unlimited. And I got 1 million pages read last year on Shelli, and that's what got it the deal of the month. So, on 1 million pages, I'm making $4,000. I already did the math because somebody had asked me a couple months ago, and I didn't forget it. So no, that's not a huge amount of money, but that's a lot of readers. And, I'm sure that 4,000 just went into the wash of marketing and stuff, but that's totally been worth it to me. Instead of diversifying, basically, I zoned in on one thing.
The other thing that actually started my self-publishing journey, and I had a lot of early success with, was getting the books on Audible.
Yes.
There are a lot of times when I've had customers come to the booth, and I don't have time to read.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Audible. Oh, I've had people buy it on
Audible. QR code. You got that QR code ready for them to scan, right?
I do.
That's the QR code.
What I usually do, I didn't have it set up this time because I lost like several of my little standees. I don't know where they went, but I had little standees for each book so they can do the QR code. It takes them to the landing page for the book on on our personal store. From there, they can buy it directly from us, which we have that set up through Lulu Press. It's the only reason I use Lulu is if they order it directly from us. Or they can find the links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Audible, and it's all right there on one page.
It's a lot of choices, though. I give them a QR code that takes them to one place and says, okay, great, you want the audiobook? Here's a QR code, and you do that, you get some bookmarks or whatever it is my wife's giving out. She's always giving something out. And if you want to get that right now, we'll give you the other goodies that you get along usually when you buy a book or whatever. So
I think that's an important point because there's a lot of times when people at the booth are just flooded with information, and you got to kind of simplify things because
absolutely everything's simple. First person, when a person walks up to my booth, my wife or I, usually my wife, asks, "Do you like androids or aliens?" And then they say, and then we take them to that book. Ironically, although Shelli is absolute king online, Ship is king at the booths. Ship does better, because it's a little more fringe. It's a little more indie. It's a little more edgy. And that does really well at conventions. While something like Shelli does well online because it's more for a mainstream audience. So we've noticed that Shelli, that the Ship, I think the Ship actually does outsell Shelli, or comes close to outselling Shelli at conventions. But it's nowhere near that. Online, it's like 90-1, 99-1. It's Shelli's king online. So it's different audiences too.
Well, this has been fun. This has been great. We are running close to an hour, and there's very little for me to edit out. So this is going to be like one of our larger ones, which is good.
Can you make it into those short little things? I love those little short things you did.
So what I do with that is there's a program called Opus Clip. I upload it, and it automatically will cut it for TikTok and Instagram and everything.
Wow.
And it publishes it to, I wish they would add Blue Sky. They don't do Blue Sky, but they'll publish it to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and it gets me in trouble.
You're really good at this stuff. It's funny because what I like about you is you and I seem to have completely opposite strengths. And I really think that we could help each other. I'm talking outside the interview. I mean, the technology stuff, which I know nothing about. And I think I could help you a bit with the Amazon stuff. I really think, because you know this stuff that I don't know anything about. It's amazing. I wish I knew half the stuff you knew. Your website's gorgeous. You're able to slice these things down. You've got so many advantages that I wish I had.
Sometimes the Opus Clip doesn't get me a nice clip. There's been a couple of times when somebody it clips it short, and they're like, "What book are you talking about?" And it's like 3 minutes later in the video.
That happened when you did Shelli. The Shelli was off camera when you were talking about Shelli. I noticed that.
Yeah. And they're like, "What book are you talking about?" And I had like that, but I know, for example, we were just talking about another author, Erin Lewis. She just has a new book coming out, and I was plugging it, and the AI completely misspelled her name. and I remember when we did the interview that the AI did the same thing. I had to go in manually make corrections. And the last time I didn't bother, because I got a lot of personal drama going on right now, so I just blasted it on the internet, didn't spell check the AI, and so it misspelled her name. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hear from that. So
oh no, you're doing an impressive job. You know a lot of things that other writers don't know. I wish I knew even half of the stuff to have been able to build that website and to do these clips and things like that. I wish I knew how to do all that. I don't know how to do anything. So that's pretty impressive, especially for somebody in our age bracket.
I earned this gray hair over here.
Yeah, I have to ask my 11-year-old how to do certain things sometimes.
But I mean, that is also part of the point of the podcast, is for us to learn off of each other and promote it, because there are definitely gaps in my knowledge. So I'll trade what I know for what you know, and then we can help each other out. That's the whole point of the podcast.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. I actually forgot to. You mentioned audiobooks. I forgot to plug that. I've got an audiobook coming out on the 24th. The Murder Mind. We actually have award-winning narrator Kelly Tager, who does the Shelli books. So we lucked out on that, actually. So she just decided she doesn't do any indie books. She just decided she liked Shelli and she wanted to do it. So that really lucked out for us. So do you find that you make as much money on the audiobooks as you do because our audiobooks, they don't do that well. And I don't know how to market the audiobooks. It's easy to market books. I don't know how to market all the audiobooks.
They were successful in the beginning. So what you could do is they would give you the promo codes, and then there were secondary websites where you could pay $12, put all your promo codes up there, and then people would download them for free, and then about maybe 1 out of every 5 would actually leave a review. The problem is the last time I did that, the site shut itself down because scammers were downloading the promo codes and reselling them.
Mm.
So now I'm not so sure. Right now it's kind of shifting. Now I'm selling more not hardcovers, but actually I'm selling a lot more hardcovers these days.
That's great.
Um, one of the tricks I learned from WonderCon, because you were talking about how you didn't want to go traditional publishing, how you want to maintain the control, and
Absolutely.
I met a guy at WonderCon, Todd Fonestock, who does fantasy. He actually was traditionally published and stepped away from that to go indie because he wanted that kind of level of control. And one of the things he was telling me is always put the hardcovers up front, because there'll be people that, oh, this is
Exactly. That is absolutely true. My wife does that too. Absolutely.
yeah. So they'll ask us like, do you have this in paperback? Yeah, sure, it's right
Yeah,
here.
exactly. That was a lesson I think is the fantasy guy, right? The giant dragon. Yeah, he gave us the same advice. Young guy, right? I think he's into karate and stuff. 20s.
I don't know how old he is. I don't. I think
Because
he's
there's a
older
guy who does all these conventions that we see, and he gave us that same tip. The other big advice that he gave us that's really great, that you should absolutely be doing, is they have the tip thing on the thing. When you do a credit card, there's a thing you can set up so it asks if they want a tip. So you just put the credit card in there, and then when that comes up, you just offer it to them. And I was shocked. We got enough tips to pay for the booth last year and the year before, and I think the year before that too. So that's about $800 worth of tips.
Really?
Yeah. I don't do it. I feel very uncomfortable doing it, but I got better at it because I saw how much money it was. I mean, at the low end, we're talking 400 to 500 at least on tips. So we've had people who will buy a $20 paperback and then leave a $20 tip. We've had that happen multiple times because they want to support the little guy. And you'd be surprised by some of the people that do it. They're not like the rich moneybags people. This is the best advice we ever got at Comic-Con. We got it, I think, the first or second comic. I think we got that the first Comic-Con because my wife, as soon as we go to Comic-Con, she goes and talks to everybody around that she thinks she can learn something from. And that was one of the guys she talked to, and he gave her that advice. And I was so against him. Like, nobody's going to want to tip. That's just rude. Blockbusters paid off because our booth is $850. So even if we're only making $500 on that, that's cutting it way down, So no, the tips is a big, big deal. That's the single best piece of advice I can give you right there for Comic-Cons or any kind of conventions. You know what I'm talking about, right? When you put it in, there's a button you have to hit to make it show so it asks for a tip. And then you just do that. And most will hit no tip, but some will absolutely hit tip, and you will definitely see it. You'll definitely see it.
I will definitely have to try that for the next one. That's
absolutely, and do it from now on. Whether it works or not, just keep doing it. It will absolutely pay off.
I will try that for WonderCon. I am definitely that's on my to-do
That was
list.
the single best advice we got. But yeah, the hardcover in front was another one we got later on that we used. Yeah.
So where can your fans get you next? Shelli is going to be on sale. The third
Shelli's on sale right now on Amazon. It's the deal of the month, so it's on Kindle for $3.49. Of course, you can get the paperback and the hardcover if you want. Paperbacks are $14.99, hardcover is $30. But right now, I would suggest anybody just take a chance on the Kindle. I mean, at $3.49, it's worth checking out. You can even just check out a few pages and then decide if you want to get a physical copy. But it's never that low. That's the lowest Shelli's ever been, and probably will be. So it's a good chance to jump on. We also have the third book is now up for pre-order. That comes out this summer. And the audiobook for the second book, Shelli Murdermind, arrives on August 24th. But the main reason I'm on here, the main thing that I would push people to is the deal of the month, just because, it's not a deal that comes along very often. So it actually never come around. I've been around for 5 years now, so it's the first time.
And of course, you'll be at LA Comic-Con again, right?
I sure hope so. Knock on wood.
All right. Well, I'll look for you then. Doug, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
And thanks for all the praise for Shelli that you gave it. I really appreciate it.
It was warranted. It was earned.
Thank you.
And I'm your host, Chad Robert Morgan. I will see you at WonderCon this year. Follow